All right, welcome back, guys. How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I'm an avid herpetologist. I am joined today by a good friend of mine. This is Raph. Raph was great enough to finish, was it 18th, 19th at the national event in LA?
18th after the first day.
18th. Now, you guys have actually seen Raph on the channel, whether you know it or not. He has actually made several appearances on our Digimon Bumble Arena streams. This is actually our Gaiomon X player. That's what he's most well known for from one of our very first live streams ever. But today he's joining us to go over his experiences from the Nationals event and maybe share some of his secrets for success. All right, Raph, so we're going to start off with just a couple of questions. I know, for me personally, this was my first time ever going to a big Nationals event. Had you been to any other big events before?
Nope, this is definitely the first time I had been to a card game national event. I only recently started playing card games in August of this year.
Oh, wow. I actually didn't even realize you were still so recent. Yeah, so a lot of the guys in our play group, both Raph and myself, had not really been to big events before, so we were all very excited to be able to participate in this particular event. So we're going to just be asking a couple of questions to Raph here. He actually brought, what deck did you bring with you to Nets?
It's funny because I brought the Boogeyman, and of course everybody knows the Boogeyman to be
BlackWargreymon X, absolutely. So yes, BlackWargreymon X is of course going to be the big boogeyman of the format. Having brought it to Nationals, first of all, would you say that the deck is deserving of its reputation? How would you describe your experience playing the deck at the national level?
It definitely felt like a Boogeyman because I think, what was the stats? It was like 60% of the field had BlackWargreymon
Something crazy
X.
like that. Because the top 32, I know 14 of the top 32 decks were all playing BlackWargreymon.
Yeah. And in my experience the first day, I mean, even the side events, I at least ran into one BlackWargreymon X. But in the actual main event, I had 6 mirrors in day 1, and then my day 2, my first match was another mirror. So
six matches out of what, 9, right?
6 out of
9 matches game 1, so 6 of your 9 rounds were all mirror matches.
Yep.
That actually leads really well into our follow-up question here. So the second question is going to be, based on your particular list, when you were constructing the list that you wanted to bring to Nats, because we did a lot of testing leading up to the big event, obviously, were there any changing of ratios or tech choices you came across that you found were really helpful, especially when you're playing so many mirror matches against other BlackWargreymon decks? What did you find helpful at kind of getting your list the edge over some of these other ones?
Right, so success is a bit of preparation and luck, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I built my deck to completely counter the mirror match because I knew I was going to run into a lot of it. If I had ran into 6 Grandises, I don't think I would have had such success. But
fair enough.
Some of the tech choices I decided to put in there was a 13th rookie, and when we go over the deck profile, I'll show you the 13th rookie because there's no mulligans, right? And consistency is key. I added 2 Alterous modes, which were important against other matchups as well, but when you can have that extra layer of protection against the popping of what BlackWar X does, it's definitely better to get rid of the Alterous modes than the X Antibody, because then that slows you down, right?
Absolutely. That's actually a good point that you make, because one of the big differences between, classic BlackWargreymon and Gaiomon or regular Wargreymon X is they do lose the old, BT9 Greymon X protections, right? So I guess, taking in that Alterous mode gives you that extra layer that I guess other lists wouldn't have.
Yeah,
did that come up a lot?
Yeah, it came up pretty much a couple times. It came up against Crossheart. It came up against Dorbikmon as well, because Dorbikmon likes to, he comes onto the field, he pops, right? And I'd rather get rid of the Alterous modes than the X Antibody, because if I don't have another one in my hand, I lose tempo, right? I lose the ability to attack and then Digivolve up with the X Antibody.
Gotcha.
I also played... People were looking at me crazy when they saw my deck list after we were playing. I played the BT10 Omni instead of the BT5 Omni. Like I said,
interesting.
I was prepping for Black War rather than Grandis, because if I put the BT5 in, then I would be okay against Grandis because it'll stop all those attacks.
Right.
But the BT10 Omni, there was a match I had in round 8, I believe, where he got the BT5 Omni out and I was stuck, right? Because you hit a wall at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the BT10 Omni I was able to Digivolve up in the BT10 Omni to bottom deck their Omni.
That's right,
for
because
game.
it tucks, was it the highest level when it enters play?
Yep.
Fantastic. Awesome. So for the next big question I have for you, for people who are looking to either get into the deck itself, looking to pilot it, or people who are just trying to learn how to play better against it, because until the ban list update, I think we can all agree it's probably going to be the deck to beat in the format, right? I think it seems pretty cut and dry. What would you say were your best matchups? What do you think are some matchups that your deck really struggles with, and why? And while you were playing at Nats, were the outcome of any of your games surprising to you?
I think the one most surprising matchup because I tested against a lot of it, was Melga. In our locals, we have a really good Melga player here who won his store championship with Melga. I play against him a lot, and like I found some success with BlackWargreymon against it, but then the only 2 losses I had in the weekend, in side events and in the main event, day 1 was against Melga.
Really?
Yeah, it's fast, and when it can go, because BlackWargreymon likes to set up, and then once it's set up, it's easy. But if I can't set up before he goes off, then it's over, right? So
it's really interesting because Grandis is kind of hailed as like the counter to BlackWargreymon X, right? Like that is like kind of the poster child. Everyone's like, well, yeah, if you want to beat BlackWargreymon X, you play Grandis.
Yeah.
A lot of people, including our Melga player, were feeling kind of discouraged leading up to the event because they felt that Melga actually had a pretty rough BlackWargreymon X matchup. It's kind of interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think it was game 3, which was really the turning point. He got 3 perfect stacks in game 3. So like he saw everything, and he built his deck with consistency, with cool boys, with the Agumon that searches tamers and Gabumons as well, I believe. So he had like 20 cards in hand, so he was always going to be able to rebuild that stack. He had a Hades Force, and then I Hades Forced him again, and then he was still able to build a 3rd stack. So he built his deck list to be consistent against BlackWar, which is a smart thing to do if you think about it. 600 people brought BlackWargreymon.
Absolutely, and that's the big takeaway. And one of the reasons I wanted to be able to interview you is, obviously, again, we were talking about how wide the playing field was for BlackWargreymon. A lot of people, including some people in our locals, have mentioned, oh, well, it doesn't take a lot of, you made top 32 with BlackWar. Big deal, right? Well, when this many people are showing up with this deck, obviously, it still takes a lot to be one of those players who is making it into the top 32. Your deck can get you only so far before it starts coming down to the choices that you're making as a player, and sure, matchups and things will play roles in that as well, but it's still very impressive that regardless of what deck you're playing, you managed to get to that point. So I just want to make sure that that was very cleanly stated.
Yeah, and even though a lot of people think that it's the best, like you said, the best deck in the format, there are times, even in the mirrors, because I've faced, like I said, 6, 7, 8 mirrors between side events and regular events, you need to know how to go when you need to go and scale back and choke your opponent to one memory when you need to, right? It's the matchup is not easy in and of itself because Gaiomon is really powerful, but they have a Gaiomon too, and if you give them 5 memory, they're just going to come out and raising with an Agumon and get to Gaiomon in 1 turn and kill your Gaiomon.
Absolutely.
It's insane. Like the deck felt very powerful, even against the mirror match, and I felt their power as well during the matches as well. So I had some definitely interesting, very close matches, but I would say it is number 1 by far the best deck in the format with Cross Hearts, like
trailing pretty close behind
now.
Probably biggest reason Crossheart probably isn't as close as it could be is just the existence of Hades Force in that deck. The fact that a deck that is so tamer-centric, I mean, the deck is still insanely aggressive. So, like, even when you are up against that bad matchup, because remember, we saw at Nationals, the very final round was Crossheart versus BlackWargreymon. You know they had to beat a bunch of BlackWar to get there.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, and as again we saw in both of those games, all it takes is that Hades Force coming down and just wiping so many resources in one shot. It's just a devastating blow. But I also like that you mentioned the deck has a lot of decision-making involved. I actually talked about this a lot when I was going over my own MetalGreymon deck list and how that plays up against BlackWargreymon, where this is not a deck like Grandis where you can, and no offense to the Grandis players out there, but when you're playing Grandis, you really are just kind of, build, stack, burr, and then you push forward and you swing for game. Like, there's still decision-making, of course, there is, but you're still very linear in your game plan, and even though BlackWargreymon has all of the best tools available to it, it's still very much a mid-range deck, and just by the nature of what a mid-range playstyle wants to do, you have to kind of adjust your playstyle, again, very similar to how MetalGreymon does, where you can't just rush into your stack and then push forward and expect that it's going to win you the game. I heard some stories from some of the people that I know we went to Nationals with. One of our buddies who showed up with Commandremon as his list was mentioning one particular round he went up against a BlackWar player who decided to just push up early with a rookie, and his stack had no protection, and they started swinging willy-nilly into security. It's very easy to get punished in those situations if you're not careful. So making sure you have the patience to kind of wait to push forward and all these things, it does seem like it would play a very big role.
Yeah, and knowing the matchup is very important, right? Like, swinging with 13k in the mirror is very dangerous, right? You really want those buffs with those inheritables on your lower level Digimon to get over those big guys in security. But what it's a control deck. At the end of the day, it's I am a very aggressive playstyle type person, but I learned to be more controlling with it, letting my MetalGrey X trashing ability to take care of security while controlling board. It feels
Patience.
When you're
Patience
is key. When you're on the other side, like I was on the other side of some of those matches where I felt like hopeless. Like I'll bring out something, or if I put something out there, it doesn't matter, because if you have the inheritable from Metal Gray that can just attack unsuspended Digimon.
Yep.
Like there's nothing you can do, and then when they unsuspend, they trash your security. You're on a time clock, and it's also very demoralizing when you can't really answer it if you're playing a very good pilot.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Absolutely. All right, so for our final question, there's been a lot of talk about the ban list updates coming.
Yeah.
We saw, obviously, before BT10 got released, there was a lot of talk about Crossheart coming out, and they decided to just go ahead and chop the head right off the snake before we even had a chance to see that deck dominate, like a week after release from BT10. With BT11, we're in this weird situation where it was a week or two before Nationals that we just had that set hit. So we knew they weren't going to drop any hits prior to this big event, because they don't want to obviously drop everyone on their heads.
Yeah.
Now that Nationals is behind us, do you think that BlackWargreymon is likely to get a hit on the ban list? Do you think it's deserving of those hits? And what do you personally think are most likely to get the axe from that deck?
I have so many conflicting opinions on this, because I wasn't.
As ban list discussions tend to go.
Right? Because I took Crosshearts to Store Championship, and I obviously got the invite with Crossheart, and I feel like every format needs a boogeyman.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
There's always a top deck. No matter how good that top deck is, there is a top deck no matter what.
Yeah.
There's always something on top.
Yeah,
right?
and what I love about the Digimon community, not just locally, but nationally, when you look at the Facebook groups and the Discords, like I love the collaboration people have when it comes to trying to kill the boogeyman or trying to defeat the boogeyman, right? And that's why I feel like there was such stagnation between BT9 and BT11, because BT10 was hit so quick, and there was no boogeyman for everybody to rally over, so everybody just went back to BT9 format. So I do think it's going to get hit. I think it should get hit, but I don't think that they're going to hit the whole X Antibody Cool Boy like combination, because I think that's a cash cow for them, right? It's a mechanic.
That's a very good point.
It's a mechanic that's really interesting and really cool, but can also be power crept in future sets, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that the most broken card in the whole deck, and people can debate this all day, is Greymon X Antibody.
I think that's probably a fair assessment.
Because if you have Greymon, if you have the perfect line in your hand, you have 3 memory and an Agumon in raising, all you need is like a prayer, and you can get to your mega and hit 2 checks and then unsuspend and delete another.
Wipe things off the board, trash more security, the whole 9 yards.
Can you imagine 3 memory and a rookie to be able to turbo into a mega? Of course, you're going to give your opponent a lot of memory, but it's also, they also have to have the pieces in their hand to respond back to you, even if they have the same situation, right?
And even then, there's the potential that they have to wait the turn as a whole, because you also potentially could have your memory setter in play, giving protections. You have MetalGreymon X, which is preventing things like de-digivolving, and basically you have all of these things where even if they have the response, you're going to have at least one turn that's almost guaranteed protection, as long as they can't swing over you, which when you have reboot is obviously even more challenging, because unless you're playing, again, another BlackWargreymon X deck, if you're playing a suspend effect specifically with things like Grandis, or being like me, you gotta have the big metal boy who can also attack into unsuspended stacks. It's very difficult to remove that. So even if your opponent has the out and you're able to push forward and smash in, you're also potentially going to have that free turn where you're going to have these protections that keep your stack safe, and then you have a whole other turn where you can start setting up stack number 2 or pushing other responses to kind of push them back and keep that response out.
Exactly. And to your question earlier, I know we glossed over it a little bit, but my advice to Wargrey X players playing the mirror and playing other types of decks that are stack decks, big decks, Jessmon is one of them as well, is prep your second stack. Your first stack is always your bait stack. Yes, you can get some chip damage in with it. I know a lot of people like putting Agumons on the field and then swinging with the Agumons. My advice would be no, don't chip damage with that. Build a first stack that baits their big stack out, and then come out with your response stack. There was a match that I had in round 9, both round 9 and 8, where we went into turns in the mirror, because it was just Gaiomon come out, attack, Then the other Gaiomon comes out, kills that stack. Then I bring out a Gaiomon, kills his Gaiomon. It's just Gaiomon response all day. But my advice is always be ready with the second stack, because you can't rely on that first stack to carry you through the game, right? And having two stacks out there is even more powerful than having one stack out there. So a lot of people like to be aggressive with the deck. Don't be too aggressive. It's not an aggro deck. It's more of a control deck, having two stacks, one to answer the stack that kills your first stack.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, I like this format. Does seem like it's a much more thought-intensive format than what we had last set, where we do have a lot less OTK strategies. I feel like people have been playing against Grandis, even things like Jessamon, Melga for so long that we just have this mindset where we have to kind of turbo out as fast as we can, or else we're going to get killed. But the biggest deck in the format right now, Black War, is not an OTK deck. It is you're right, it is very much a controlling mid-range, build a stack, but respond to what your opponent's doing. Don't just turbo out as hard as you can. So ordering which mega you drop out first is going to ultimately matter a lot. Like even in the games that I played against Black War 2 times at Nationals, and both of them did a very good job of doing exactly what you mentioned, where they would lead off with like a BT8 BlackWargreymon stack, where they can kind of hinder your opponent's resources, maybe wipe some tamers, and then if you deal with that stack, then they're able to power back out, and exactly, I think what you described it is perfect, where they have a response stack, right? So you kind of push out and kind of punish them and try to force them back a bit, and then when they push, you have your response stack that's ready to kind of basically play that game of cat and mouse a lot. Exactly, I've been using the term game of chicken, where you're trying to force your opponent to be the first one to act, which I think is a very unique, and again, it's a kind of an interesting change of pace. I've honestly really liked the games that I have played against BlackWargreymon. Once you learn how to properly do that matchup, it is extremely interactive, and it is very challenging to both pilots to kind of play these mind games where you kind of have to figure out, okay, what is he going to do, and what can I play around, what responses can he make, what can I do to stop him, and what like future-proof plays can I make. It's very, very interesting. I'm a sucker for those kind of gameplays matchups. So
definitely,
big fan of that. All right, well, thank you so much for answering the questions. This has been awesome. So we're going to go ahead now. We're going to move into our deck profile. So we're going to go ahead and transitions over to that. I'm going to let Raph kind of describe his profile, his list for you guys, describe his little tech choices, talk about ratios, and we'll wrap the video up. So Raph, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, so let's start with the eggs. Of course, the most important part of any Digimon deck. I decided to go more with the BT9 Koromon egg. Like I said, I was prepping for the mirror match as much as possible, and that extra 1 KDP is definitely very important. It's come up pretty frequently where I'm swinging 14 over their 13 just because of this egg. Some people like to just run 4 eggs, but I definitely added a 5th egg in there for the matches that definitely take a long time. Like we were saying earlier, right? The Black War matchup is a very control, mid-level, long a match, right? But the 5th egg definitely came in clutch times during that matchup, but also I did play a Mastamon player, a security control Mastamon player in one of the win-a-box competitions, and the 5th egg definitely came up in a lot of those matches. Now, I do have the box toppers here, and not a box topper for this one, or not the box topper, but the BT8 Koromon, or the special promo Koromon that everyone is trying to win this past weekend. I'm not going to name any names, but in my pod, I was trying to buy the Koromon from the person who shall not be named, but she did not want to sell it to me. So that's why this one is the non-special version of the card.
Gotcha.
So we're going to go into the rookies, of course. We have the basic Agumon package. We have the promo Agumon that gives the boost for 2 KDP if you have a Greymon in your name. Very, very basic. You really want to have this in raising every single time. You have your, in my opinion, second best Agumon searcher in the game. It searches you your Greymon and then an Omnimon, which is very important, very good if you have 3 memory turn 1 from your opponent's first turn to play this out and be able to search for some of your pieces. Then, of course, the beautiful Agumon X Antibody, which is the one that's going to search you even more Greymons or Omnimons, and then your X Antibody option, which
redundancy is key.
Redundancy is key. But a lot of people a lot of people hold back if they don't have these 2 rookies to put in raising, and really delay their gameplay by waiting when they have X Antibody in their hand. It's okay to digivolve this in raising because it's essentially going to, it's an X Antibody deck, right? It's always going to feel bad when you digivolve this in raising and then you draw this from your digivolve, but you know, you're basically delaying your stack if you're holding onto this too much and waiting for one of these to come out in your hand. And the last but not least, because there were no mulligans, right? We wanted to go with I wanted to go with consistency, so I added a final rookie, which is my favorite searcher, Agumon searcher, because you reveal a top 4 and add one card with Greymon in its name, and then a Dragonkin, which is all your megas, basically.
So you get a +1.
You get a +1, which is amazing, because being able to find 2 pieces, whether it's your level 4, level 5, and your level 6, is amazing. The only reason I only run one of these is because I run the red Greymon that can't digivolve on top of a black source, and sometimes I've had that in hand where, okay, I could put this Agumon in raising and I have the black or the red Greymon, and I stall myself because I can't digivolve on top of this unless I get an X Antibody over it. So that's why I decided to go with one of these. And 13 rookies felt good. I only bricked a couple times, which is what this deck is biggest weakness is bricking, and that's why I went to 13 rookies. The only game that I really horrendously bricked was day 2, unfortunately, but people were saying it's better to brick in day 2 than day 1.
Absolutely true.
Next, for the control aspect, I went more for the control aspect of the level 4 package. I run 4 of the blocker Greymons, which is really good when you have the BT8 MetalGreymon, the BlackWargreymon, because you could block essentially 2 times with that combo after you kill something when you block. The next other MVP of the deck is the BT5 Greymon, because of there's 3 reasons why this is an MVP in my opinion. The first one is when you have an Agumon and you're at 0 memory, this chokes your opponent to 1, right? Very, very efficient. The other is if you have, like I was saying earlier, if you have an Agumon in raising and you have 3 memory, this can go up. You can go up the line to your Mega, past 5 memory, but if you have this Greymon, you can go into this Greymon for 1, then you can go into Greymon X for free, then go in, so then you're still at 2, go into MetalGreymon, go to 0, and either you choke them to 1 by going to the Metal Grey X, or go up to 5 and respond to their stack with this Greymon itself. And then the last but not least, the 2 KDP is always important in the mirror match.
100%.
And then the last guy that when we were talking, I think should get hit is Greymon X Antibody, the most broken card in this set. Like I was saying earlier, if you digivolve on top of one of your Greymons, it's free, and then it reduces the cost of a Greymon by 1 for each of its colors. So your Alterous mode is just 2. Your MetalGreymon is just 2, which is absurd in my opinion, because you can answer so many stacks with either of those 2 level 5s, and only going up to them for 2 cost is crazy. And also
it only gets worse in BT12 when we get another copy of MetalGreymon to go into for so cheap.
Right, and then also the inheritable with this, in order to protect your stack with having the metal or the X Antibody underneath it. MVP of the weekend for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, moving on to the level 5s. Of course, this copy of MetalGreymon from BT8 is very, very powerful. The ability to de-digivolve for 2 when you go on top of the Greymon X Antibody is insane. The efficiency is
absolutely nuts. So easily the best thing to go into off of a Greymon X for sure.
Exactly. Efficiency of for 2 costs to de-digivolve, also then pop a 3K body is amazing, and then the inheritable is just is so good. When you want to control the board, this inheritable is so important. You know, as a Machine Dramon player,
oh yeah,
this
is
one of
my favorites too.
This is one of your favorites as well, to be able to control the board. You know, this is one you're always searching for, and if you don't have a level 5, this is the level 5 to definitely grab if you have the Greymon X Antibody underneath. The next MVP is the Alterous mode. And shout out to Justin for getting me to put 2 of these in, because before Nats I was facing his Beelstar and it was destroying me, because Beelstar can at late game can just
chain removal after
removal for 0 cost.
Yep.
So having the extra layer of protection, like I was saying earlier, is just so amazing. So that's why I love the Alterous modes, and I kept them at 2. And then I decided to, because of consistency's sake, I went down on the MetalGreymon X Antibody.
Interesting.
Because it's searchable, right? It's searchable with Cool Boy, it's searchable with Agumons. Like 3 is enough. And the inheritable is nice, but it isn't necessarily needed. And the level of protection it gives, right? When you until the end of your opponent's next turn, or opponent's turn, they can't be, your stat can't be DP reduced or de-digivolved, which is really, really important. But I found that turboing into the Mega, if you don't have this, is, you know, just it's okay to not have this in your stack, right? It is nice for control sake, but this combo is the removal from the level 5s is just amazing, because when I was playing Crossheart in round 6 or 7, right, being able to go into MetalGreymon, pop a 3K, of course, right, because Crossheart has lots of bodies.
Oh my gosh.
Then go into Alterous mode, pop another 5K. Then if you have another Alterous mode, you can Digivolve on top of that, which is crazy.
Yep.
Pop another 5K, then go into this for 1 more memory to pop another 6K. It's insane. Like, it's so good in the Crossheart matchup. This lineup is beautiful for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Chaining removal is definitely very good, especially in a format, again, where we are a little more controlling and decks are able to afford to go a little bit wider.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And also, not to, I mean, to mention that with this card, the reason why this is broken is you can do all that removal for 3 memory.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yep.
3 memory. Insane.
Yep. Awesome. All right, moving up into those megas.
All right, let's go into the megas. My favorite part, because this is one of my favorite megas of all time, Mr. BlackWargreymon. Now, people are asking, why are you running this BlackWargreymon? Why don't you just run 3 Gaiomons? Because Gaiomon is good for the mirror. But I just find so much value in this to be able to remove the Yuyas off the board or remove the Cool Boys off the board. The ability to swing into unsuspended Digimon with your MetalGreymon twice, because you can kill something and then swing again at something else if they're trying to go wide, right? The ability to block with this, and then if you kill their attacker, to be able to restand and block again. Very, very powerful card, and it's slept on for sure, because it's slept on because of how powerful Gaiomon is, right? In the mirror match, this was the one that was removing the stacks pretty consistently. Shout out to those people this weekend or last weekend that I was able to get these alt arts from, because I was able to bling out my deck and it felt really good. Even though people were saying, you're crazy because this deck is going to get hit, why are you alting it out? It's really nice to see shiny cards on the table
absolutely.
for sure.
And honestly, I really do think even if this deck is hit on the ban list, it's more than likely going to retain enough of its value cards. I do still think this deck is going to exist. It may not be the top tier threat anymore, but for those of you out there like who are really interested in just like the deck for BlackWargreymon, who like the character, who like the Digimon, this deck will absolutely stay playable unless they are like just going super turbo mode, which I strongly doubt. This deck is absolutely going to stick around. It will still be playable
for sure. It's fun. And you know, I didn't mention it earlier, but this was my BT9 deck. Like, I love this deck so much, and I'm so glad that it got the support that it did, even though it was too much support, in my opinion. But the Gaiomon is nice, right, for aggression. The Gaiomon is nice in the mirror because you can attack into their Gaiomon. You can de-digivolve their stack if they don't have that protection from de-digivolving, and then swing into their stack. The security +1 is nice, but I never really checked 2 checks with this. I use it more for control, and I let like I said, the MetalGreymon X Antibody do the trashing of the security. And then last but not least, the newest card to the Mega lineup is the BlackWargreymon X Antibody. The ability for both of these 2 to reboot is just fantastic. Both of them Digivolve for 2 on top of a BlackWargreymon, but this guy's abilities is just nuts. The ability to control the board by letting their highest DP Digimon attack into it is just so powerful. And then its ability to, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended during your opponent's turn, to remove the lowest play cost is something that most decks, like I was facing like Crossheart, when I was facing Melga, when I was facing Dorbeck, they were trying to put another like little body out there wasting 3 memory because they have to account for the fact that their stack is going to be punished because
almost like a mini Death Xmon, where you really have to kind of play around the fact that that removal is going to hit you every single turn.
Yep, exactly. So again, if I had to pick which one of these was my favorite from the weekend, it would definitely be Gaiomon because it was its ability to just respond to stacks that you would have trouble with because you can't DP reduce it, you can't de-digivolve it, but to be able to attack into it with Blitz is just so important.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, and then the last Digimon of the list is the Mirror. The reason I chose this is for the Mirror, right?
Yep, the Mirror Breaker.
The Mirror Breaker, of course. The ability to, when Digivolving, bottom deck the Digimon of the highest level is just so important. Like I said in match 8 with Ivan, it was game 3 and it was getting down to time, and the only reason I won that was because I top decked this to be able to bottom deck his BT5 Omni, and it was seriously probably the best match that I had all weekend because it was at time, it was my last chance, and it was my last turn, and if I didn't have this, I definitely would have lost. You
got that heart of the cards going for you.
Yeah, the heart of the cards.
Gotta love it.
Yep. And then also the second ability, of course, I didn't use it too much, where you trash the X Antibody or a Mega from underneath it to trash or look through the security and trash
something. Sure.
And like I said, I didn't really run into security control or purple yellow a lot this weekend, so that's where this ability, the second ability, comes in a lot because you want to trash those chaos tags, those flame hell sites that are very annoying. But in the Mirror, it's good to get rid of their big bodies out of security, as well as, I mean, Hades Force isn't too much of a threat because you do have protection, but I mean, it's also still good to get rid of Hades Force out of security.
Absolutely. At the very least, it means you don't have to use your protection up just because you checked something problematic.
Yep, exactly. And then going into the Tamers, I decided to go with a split of 2 Yuyas and 3 Cool Boys. Now, everybody's going crazy about Cool Boy because right before Nats it went up to like what, $25, which is crazy. But I wanted to run 2 Yuyas, and it was interesting because this guy for me never came out of security, which everybody loves it coming out of security. But it's still a memory setter. The 4 cost for a memory setter is standard cost, right? But the ability to, when you Digivolve into Greymon, give it 2 KDP is very important in the Mirror, and to be able to have it not be affected by options if you're Digivolving on the same level is very important as well. Like I said, I didn't run into too many option-heavy decks, so the second effect didn't really come up too often, but the 2 KDP definitely did, because it lasts till the end of your opponent's turn. And Cool Boy is Cool Boy. Most broken tamer in the game. 2 cost. 2 cost to be able to search for 2 cards, as well as gaining you memory every time you Digivolve into an X Antibody. It's nuts.
It's pretty good.
It's so good.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. I don't think anybody will debate me when I say that this guy is probably the best tamer in the game right now.
Oh yeah, I think that would definitely be a true statement.
And then last but not least, we have our options. We have the 3 X Antibodies. I only went with 3. Some people ran with 4, but these are searchable, right, by so many things, by the Agumon, by the Cool Boy, that you're always seeing this anyways. And then you have, and it's good in security, right, because it gains you a memory.
Potential hammer spark effect.
Potential small hammer spark effect, especially if they're at 0. They have to account for might hitting X Antibody.
Unexpected memory loss from security is enough to really shaft some players who are not expecting it, 100%.
And then the ability to turbo into the next level, X Antibody level, with this is just very powerful in and of itself. I went with 1. Like I said, I built consistency in terms of rookies, so I only ran with 1 memory boost, just in case. Memory boosts are always just very powerful. I didn't run into too many Gazimons, right? Gazimon is the one that stops.
Yes, purple Gazimon.
Purple Gazimon, so
Madoki
memory
betas
boost.
And blue flare.
Yeah, Madoki betas. I didn't face a blue flare, surprisingly. But memory boost is memory boost. It's always going to be powerful. And then most powerful removal in the game, maybe?
Definitely up there. I'd say it's a toss-up between Hades Force and Chaos Deck.
Yeah, Chaos
definitely
Deck,
one of the 2.
Chaos Deck has a couple counters, but Hades Force is just, for 5, to be able to just delete 13 play cost worth of tamers in Digimon is just insane. There's some cool combo plays where you Hades, like let's just say you're going against a mirror match and they have a stack with 1 layer of protection, and this is why Alterous mode was important, because you can Hades Force, right? Get rid of their first X antibody, so they have no protection left if they don't have Alterous mode. Then you swing with your Mega, your Black War Gray into security. Then when it restands, it gets rid of, if they don't have a little guy on the field, and they don't have any more protections because of Hades Force, this will restand and kill that stack.
That's right, because it not only does it have the removal, but it also gives you a free attack after the effect resolves, correct?
Yep, exactly. Free attack into security, which is, if it was not into security, into Digimon, if you can choose to swing into Digimon as well, this card would be even more broken, but I'm glad it's not that broken. So that is the list. The matchups, like I said earlier, were 6 mirrors. Insane. 1 Melga, which was my only loss. The Dorbikmon who plays Bryce, who placed in the top 16, which was a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, big congrats to him on that one.
Yeah,
definitely cool finishing top 16 with Dorbik.
Yeah, with Dorbikmon, and we have a locals player here that plays Dorbik, and so I got a lot of experience with that. Right, you choke them to 1 so that they can't get into Dorbik. Unfortunately, he didn't see his pieces, so I was able to beat him in that matchup, and then. The last other matchup was Crossheart in the X7 package, not the Merva package. So the Alterous modes came in clutch there. The last match was definitely the closest match of the mirrors because it was Ray who placed 4th overall in the whole tournament. We went to time because our 3rd match started with 1 minute left on the clock, which was insane because we were just playing. Him and I were playing similar levels or similar styles of play where we were just controlling each other's board, and that's why with 1 minute left we were like, well, we're definitely going to tie here, and it was luckily the last round of Swiss for day 1. Like I said, the only weakness of this deck was that I saw this weekend or last weekend was its ability to brick, right? And it's a good deck because it can unbrick itself with the way it stacks. But when you brick hard, and I bricked in game 3 against Navpreet, who finished 3rd overall, so congrats to him because he's a very great player. Unfortunately, I bricked in game 2 and I lost in the first round of top 32, but that was a great match as well, and I think it would have been an even better match if I didn't brick in game 3.
Absolutely. Well, Raph, I want to thank you so much
thank you
for coming on and doing this profile. Another big congratulations for your 18th place finish at Nationals. That's a huge accomplishment, and I hope you are proud of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, thank you all again for joining me for another video here, and another huge thank you to Raph for coming on and giving us this interview today. Anything you wanted to say before we
I just wanted to give a couple shout outs, right? Shout out to our Tampa local community.
Yes, absolutely.
There was how many of us there? 15 to 20 of us?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, and most of everybody finished within the top half of the standings, which is amazing. Shout out to Sunshine Games, where we're currently at, because they're our local game store. Other shops like Phoenix Emporium and Collectibles, Warehouse 51, Oblivion Games, Cool Stuff Games, of course. Without the community, without the local game stores here, we wouldn't really be able to practice, be able to buy product, to have fun.
Yep.
Shout out to Arvind and what's his name, Vice, because they helped me learn the mirror match a lot. Shout out to Tommy, shout out to James, shout out to you for all the play testing we did leading up to nationals, and shout out to just everyone there, because whether you were 1 or whether you were 1,000, you are nationally ranked within the North American region, which is an accomplishment in and of itself. So a shout out to Bandai, shout out to Core TCG for hosting a great event. The next time, I feel like there should be at least a break in there and some food vendors, because we were,
oh my goodness,
everybody was
the lack of food vendors was wild to me. That was pretty cool. That's very interesting choice. But.
And the fact that there were vending machines, but it was like $4 for a soda or something like that. No. Host it in Tampa next time. But anyway, shout out to all the Digimon community for sure, because this is a game, like I said, I've just joined recently, but I love so much, and it holds a dear place in my heart.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Well, again, one last thank you, Raph. Thank you all again for joining me. I am an avid herpetologist. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.